Hi, my name is Ilana King. I'm an entrance exam specialist, and in particular, I am a specialist for 7+ entrance exams and working with very young children. And today I want to help you understand some techniques you can use in helping children of this age, 5 or 6 years old, begin to make the connections between body language and emotions in pictures and in text. And it's really, really tricky for children of this age. It's something they need to be able to do because on the 7+ entrance exam, there is a comprehension passage with questions to answer. And many of the questions will be inference-based questions and looking particularly at whether they can understand those small clues about emotion. And emotion is something that children, an understanding of emotion, they develop this at different stages. And at 5 or 6 years old, or 6 really, when they're taking the exams coming up to 7, they haven't all developed this sense really well. It's a really tricky area. So I like to start with pictures. Again, I really like to move away from a lot of pencil and paper work during sessions. These are young children. They need sessions to be fast-paced, dynamic, and not rely on a lot of writing. So I like to use pictures, and it's really easy nowadays with the internet and all the free pictures that are available. If you do a little bit of searching, it's really available. It's really easy to find the types of pictures that you might need. You can use Google Images. If you have Canva, and if you don't, I recommend it highly. It's a graphic design program. It is free in certain form, so you don't need to pay into it, and it has a really good library of photos that you can use within it. So you can pretty much find anything. So I like to laminate my photos to use again. So I'm just going to show you one now. This is a photo that I use, and you can see the shine on it. It's been laminated in plastic. Laminators these days are not very expensive, and I've had one for many, many years. I've never had to replace it, and just every now and again I need to buy new laminating sheets, the plastic for it. So it's not a high cost thing to have. The reason I like to laminate, I know we're in an age where we shouldn't be encouraging the use of plastic, but actually if I laminate something, then I can reuse it again and again and again. And I only need to ever do that once rather than printing off photos, which use a lot of ink again and again. So when I print something that I think I'm going to use, I will then laminate it and keep it in a folder so it can be used again. And of course, nowadays as well, where we have to think about COVID and germs, they're easily wipeable as well. When they are laminated, you can just give them a quick disinfect after. So here's a photo I might use with a 5 or 6 year old. And all I would do is I would just put it on the table in front of them and ask them to have a look at it. And we would just discuss it, or I might hold it up if we're sitting across the room, if we need a bit of space between us due to COVID. So we'll look at it and I'll just ask the question, what do you think's happening in this picture? And just see what they say. And sometimes a child will be very direct in what they describe. They'll say that there's 2 children or 2 boys sitting on the grass, but they might pick up straight away on the fact that one of these boys is not happy. So they might bring that into their description at the beginning. So you don't know till you ask the question. What I do is on the back of it, I have some questions ready. I don't show these to the child. They don't need to read these questions, but these are from me. So these are a little prompt so that I can sort of think, well, okay, depending on what they answer, then I can think about, what might be the best question to ask next. So, or if they say nothing, we've got, who can you see in the photograph? So we can prompt them. How do you know the children are boys? Because they might say there's 2 boys. How do we know they're boys? Well, let's have a look at it. What tells us that they are boys? Then what are they doing? What else can you see? And then we want to really zero in on the emotions. So this is the tricky part, okay? So how are they feeling? And this is where we start to think about body language, because most children are going to be able to tell you that at least one of these boys is feeling upset, or they might use the word sad. But we need to take it a step further. And this is where we start to ask, how do you know? You're right. He does look like he's upset. How do you know? The reason we're asking, how do you know, is because we want to draw their attention to the body language that has given them that information. And why do we want to draw their attention to the body language? Because it's that body language that's going to be described in text that will help them decode that text. So if this was a piece of text rather than a picture, it might say something about how he's sitting with his head over his knees, hiding his eyes. So that information is going to be key when we're trying to work out how a character is feeling in a text. So if we start with pictures and we talk about how do we know how they're feeling? And at this point, hopefully, they're going to point to the fact that his head is down, that he's bent over. What about the fact he's got his back to the other child? What does that tell us? That's a really important clue. So we can extend this further once we've discussed how this boy might be feeling. This one, we can extend this to think about, how is this boy over here feeling? Now we can just catch a corner of his face there, and he's smiling. So this is really important clue. They've got their backs to each other. This one's upset. This one's smiling. So what do we think might have led to them sitting like this? What's happened before? And of course, there's no right or wrong answer specifically to this, that you can explore all kinds of different options. Perhaps they had a fight, perhaps they were playing a game and one of them was the winner and one of them was the loser. There's all sorts of possibilities, but you're opening up the discussion. You're getting them to really think about not only the body language that tells us about emotion, but cause and effect. Why does somebody feel sad or upset? What clues can we get from this picture that might tell us why they've ended up with these emotions? Because when we're thinking about emotion, we're always going to be thinking about cause and effect. What caused that character to feel that way? And questions in a comprehension might say, why? Why? And then of course we need to think about the because. So a really good way of kind of practicing this is starting with these images. Would you go on and write down any of this? Personally, I would say no. It's entirely up to you, of course, but I use this only for discussion. No formal writing here. This is a discussion. Okay. When you finish this, you might want to have a little text passage that follows up on this emotion. So perhaps you were talking about the emotion of upset. Okay, you might have a little text passage where the character gets upset and you can see if they can find the clues in the same way they did in the picture as a good follow-up activity. Would you write it down again at that point? I would say no. You can get through so much more by not writing this down, right? You can just get through a lot through discussion. And would you write any of it down? Well, that depends on the stage the child is at. If they're able to answer all these questions quite easily, you might get them to write down one of the answers towards the end. But for me, it's all about the discussion. You can get through so much with the discussion. So pictures first, always thinking about the clues they can find in the pictures and then taking it through to the text. I hope you found that useful and it's something that you'll be able to use with the children that you teach. Thank you, and I'll see you in another video. Goodbye.